The evidence, the scientific evidence has been studied over and over again, is that what's important is to have a loving, stable, two-parent family. And that can be a heterosexual couple, it can be a gay couple, it can be a lesbian couple.
The leading expert in the world about the welfare of children from Cambridge testified that children do as well in a same-sex environment where both of their parents are the same sex, just as well as opposite-sex parents. And it's important to recognize California recognizes the right of same-sex couples to live together, to have children, to adopt children, or to conceive of children in various ways that are available these days. There's 37,000 children or something in California with same-sex couples, and the evidence shows that those children are doing fine, just fine. Compare an opposite-sex couple with an abusive father, with the same-sex loving couple. Quality of parenting is not based upon gender or sexual orientation. It is in the quality of one's heart.
When the court first ruled that gay marriage was permissible in California, 18,000 gay and lesbian couples got married. Then Proposition 8 comes along and declares gay marriage unconstitutional. What happens to those 18,000 who got married in that era?
They're still valid. And one of the things that makes the equal protection argument so strong for California is that California has this absurd classification system right now. If you are a gay or lesbian couple who got married, one of those 18,000, your marriage is valid. There are gay and lesbian valid marriages in California, 18,000 of them. In addition, if you were a gay or lesbian couple that got married in another state where it was valid and moved to California during that period, that marriage is also recognized. But if you're one of the other gay and lesbian couples who didn't get married, you can't get married now.
In this window. If you didn't
get married in that window, you don't get married. And if you happen to be one of the people who did get married in that window and you get divorced, you can't get remarried.
Because of
Proposition 8.
So if any one of the 18,000 couples decided, which is quite normal in our society, that they didn't want to stay married, they couldn't marry again?
That's right.
And they couldn't marry the same person again.
They couldn't even get remarried.
So you've got various different classes of persons. People can't get married, people who can get married, people who are married but can't get remarried, people who got married in another state but can be married. So California's got what we call a crazy quilt system of laws that treat different people in different categories.
I don't know anything about either of your religious backgrounds or faiths, but I'm sure you know you're up against some very powerful religious sentiment on this. The Southern Baptist Convention, with millions of members, the largest Protestant denomination in America, describes homosexuality as an abomination. The Catholic Church calls homosexual activity gravely immoral. Archbishop Joseph Kurtz of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops says, and I'm quoting, "The difference between man and woman allows them to make the fundamentally unique commitment of marriage, ordered to love and the creation and nurturing of new life. Because of the unique nature and responsibilities of this relationship, it deserves the protection and promotion of the state."
We respect people's individual religious convictions. They're entitled to those convictions under that same Constitution that protects the free exercise of religion. But this point of view is based upon the idea that sexual conduct, intimate sexual conduct between persons of the same sex is evil, it's a sin, it's wrong, it's unnatural. The Supreme Court of the United States just a few years ago struck down laws that prohibited that conduct as violating the fundamental rights of individuals to have intimate sexual relationships with one another. So
this was Lawrence versus Texas when they said that sodomy is not unconstitutional.
That's right. And struck down earlier decisions, and many laws go back a point that you've made before, the laws of many, many states that prohibited intimate sexual conduct between persons of the same sex. Now people are saying that because people exercise that constitutional right that the Supreme Court has already upheld, because they do that, they can't get married. Well, people can get married and have that fundamental right to get married, and they have the fundamental right to engage in same-sex behavior. We recognize that in this country now. To deny people the right to that marriage because of that constitutional behavior is wrong.
So is the religious doctrine wrong?
Well, you can't say the religious doctrine is wrong. Religious doctrine is a doctrine of belief. And I don't think either Ted or I or anybody would say that the Archbishop or the Southern Baptists don't have the right to believe whatever they believe. And our Constitution, the First Amendment, guarantees them that right of freedom of conscience and freedom of religious beliefs. But that same First Amendment, in the anti-establishment clause part of that amendment, says that they cannot impose those religious beliefs on other people. No one is saying that the Southern Baptist Church or the Catholic Church or any other church ought to marry people who they don't want to marry. However, what we are saying is that no religious group, no matter how numerous, should be able to pass a law that says the state will only sanction marriages that we religiously approve of. That's the separation between church and state that our Constitution has always guaranteed.
You introduced in the trial some supporters of Proposition 8, clergy and others, saying that gay marriage is wrong. Let me show you some of that.
Second of all, the polygamists are waiting in the wings. Because if a man can marry a man and a woman can marry a woman based on the fact that you have the right to marry whoever you want to marry, then the polygamists are going to use that exact same argument, and they're probably going to win. And then I think about the damage done to our children, and our children are going to be taught in the schools that gay marriage is not just a different type of a marriage. They're going to be taught that it's a good thing. And of course, we're destroying the pillar of our society.
Say sexual orientation or sexual attractions were the basis upon which we were allowed to marry. Then pedophiles would have to be allowed to marry 6, 7, 8-year-olds. The man from Massachusetts who petitioned to marry his horse after marriage was instituted in Massachusetts, he'd have to be allowed to do so. Mothers and sons, sisters and brothers, any combination would have to be allowed.
Why did you invoke that on your side?
Sure, because what we wanted to do is we wanted to make explicit how totally absent there was in any logic or factual underpinning for the arguments in favor of Proposition 8. It had nothing to do with marrying people who are 6 years old, and nothing to do with marrying horses, and nothing to do with polygamy, and everybody knew that. It had nothing to do with protecting children, it had nothing to do with teaching children in schools as to what was religiously right or religiously wrong. It simply had to do with permitting people who loved each other to get married regardless of their sexual orientation. And so we played that because we wanted to make explicit exactly what it was that the people supporting Proposition 8 were saying to the voters. Now, we said we'd prove 3 things during the trial. We said we'd prove that marriage was a fundamental right. The Supreme Court has held that. We said we would prove that preventing gays and lesbians from marrying harmed them and harmed their children. And their own experts, the defendant's own experts, admitted that. And we said we would prove that permitting gay and lesbian marriage would not in any way harm heterosexual marriage. And we proved that also. And even their own experts could not come up with any evidence that heterosexual marriage or the institution of marriage would be in any way harmed by permitting gay and lesbian marriage.
And I also say, well, another point of showing that ad is to show that those kind of arguments were the same kind of arguments against interracial marriage. Allowing the races to mix will cause the dilution of the race.
And threaten the children.
And threaten children. Oh, absolutely. Those same arguments were made. Allowing women to vote, allowing women to leave the home to go into the workplace is going to destroy our fundamental pillars of society. Those same arguments are made over and over and over again. The sky will fall. And we're talking about California already recognizes individuals who are of the same sex to live together, to have children, to have virtually all of the rights, except they can't call themselves married.